Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is The Raptor, and today I'm going to be talking about a movie, but not just any movie. I'm going to be talking about the movie coming out in July 2017, or one of them, SpiderMan Homecoming. As most of you guys already know, Spider-Man has now joined the MCU. Tom Holland now plays him. He made his debut in Captain America Civil War, which is honestly one of my favorite movies right now. And, I just think they really cast the perfect Spider-Man. I think I've said this somewhere else on my channel before, but Tom Holland is now my favorite actor to play Spider-Man of the three. I did really like Tobey Maguire and I did really like Andrew Garfield, but honestly I think Tom Holland is the perfect actor for Spider-Man now that I've seen him on screen. And even though his movie is coming out this year, it feels like it's coming out so far away. In July we're going to be getting Spider-Man Homecoming, which is his first MCU solo movie, and I am really excited. Now for me personally, there hasn't been a Spider-Man movie yet that I haven't enjoyed myself watching. I did really enjoy the first three Spider-Man films, and I did enjoy the two Amazing Spider-Man films. I did really like them there, but it is fair that some of them have suffered from different things, and one of the biggest things is because of so many villains in the one movie. Most notably Spider-Man 3, which had Venom, New Goblin, or the New Green Goblin, and Sandman, and also the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which had Electro, Green Goblin, and Rhino. At least for a bit, Rhino. And some of you may not know this, but Spider-Man Homecoming is actually set to have three villains in it: Vulture, Tinkerer, and Shocker. And as soon as I heard this news, I knew that there were going to be some people that are going to be losing their minds. They're thinking, oh my god, Marvel's making the same mistakes that Sony made, after Sony made that same mistake, like Spider-Man 3 and then the Amazing Spider-Man 2 and now this, Marvel, what are you doing? And yeah, I did think that's going to happen. That probably did happen to some people, maybe I'm just thinking of an overreaction. But my point is, I know that there are probably going to be some people that are a bit worried now, just why is Marvel doing this? Sony's made this mistake twice. Well, personally, I think I figured out a way that Marvel can do this right, even with three villains. And some of you are probably going to be thinking right now, you're probably just going to be saying, this villain's going to do this one thing, and this villain's going to do this one thing. It has to be, very specific. Honestly, though, my solution isn't all that specific at all, and you guys will see what I mean as I explain it later in the video. By the way, this is the first time I'm making a video like this, so if you do enjoy this video, please let me know, because that means that you guys might want to see more in the future, almost like predicting, or, just talking about future movies. And if you don't like it, you can tell me that as well. This is my first time. But anyway, let's get right into it. So I'm going to tell you how Spider-Man Homecoming is going to be good even with three villains. So, what is my solution, you may be asking? Well, honestly, in order to figure out what the solution is, you first need to figure out what really the problem is. And believe it or not, the problem is not actually the amount of villains in the movie. Really, the problem in the movie is the amount of different stories and the amount of completely different things that Spider-Man has to tackle throughout the one movie. And I'll elaborate more on that. Looking back at Spider-Man 3, you realize that, it's not really the amount of villains inside the movie, but it's that the villains are completely separate from each other. We have Sandman, who's basically Spider-Man's uncle's killer, and that's a whole story by itself. There's this guy who Spider-Man wants to get revenge on, and he's also just this guy who's a thug, he's wreaking havoc in the city as the Sandman. And then you also have New Goblin, or Harry Osborn, who wants to get revenge on Spidey for killing his father after he realizes that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And then you have Venom, which is a symbiote falling from the sky, and then you have, it's bonding with Eddie Brock after it bonded with Spider-Man. That's so much in one movie. And what I've realized is that it's not the amount of villains inside the movie, but it's more so that all these villains have nothing to do with each other. I know that Venom and Sandman teamed up closer to the end, but for the majority of the movie, all three villains, they didn't really have anything to do with each other. And Spider-Man had to divide the whole movie between okay, so I'm gonna do this with Sandman, this with New Goblin, this with Venom, and it just didn't really work for a really well-directed, well-made movie. And you find the same problem in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but the main difference between Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 really only had two villains. It didn't really have three. I know that Rhino was in it, and he was supposed to be in future films, but really he was only there at the beginning, and then, actually in his suit at the end. He wasn't really in the movie much at all. He wasn't a prime villain. The only two prime villains were Electro and Green Goblin, the Harry Osborn version of Green Goblin. So really, there weren't a lot of villains in that movie, but it has the same problem that Spider-Man 3 had. Because you have Electro who wants to get revenge on Spider-Man for, like, not being his friend or, like, lying to him or whatever he said in the movie. And then we have Green Goblin, Harry Osborn, who's mad at Spider-Man because he won't give him his blood in order to produce a cure for the disease that he has. So really, those are two completely different things. And again, they did team up closer to, like, the middle/end of the movie. But really, it was like, it was two completely different things for most of it. And again, the movie had to divide its time between Electro and Green Goblin. Spider-Man had to divide his time in the movie between those two. And again, that just doesn't really work well. It's two completely different stories in one movie. You're cramming too much in one movie. And that's why it's not really the amount of villains inside the movie, it's more so the different stories that the villains are bringing. And if some of you are a bit skeptical about what I'm saying, about how like it's actually stories or like different things that the villains are doing rather than the number of villains, remember The Dark Knight, which is like one of my favorite it is my favorite Batman movie of like all time. That's just my opinion, but whatever. That was a great movie, and that did have two villains. It had Joker and it had Two-Face. And that's because, Joker's doing his own thing, and then Joker kills Rachel. Spoilers. Joker kills Rachel, and then we have, he put Harvey Dent in the hospital, and, he basically corrupts Harvey. The stories are more so interconnected. It's almost like the villains are working together, kind of. Obviously, Two-Face doesn't really show up until closer to the end, and that kind of works as well because there aren't two villains running around at the same time. Again, you can have more villains in the movie, you just need to know how to do it properly, and you need to make sure that that like it can't overlap really. You can't have more than one story, and the Dark Knight does that really well. However, the same thing cannot be said about the Spider-Man movies that I said, Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2, how these villains are all running around at essentially the same time. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's more so you have like Harry Osborn's story, which is developing as Electro is running amok. Again, like the same can kind of be said for that, but you guys get my point. It's different stories for different villains, and again, that's just cramming way too much in one movie. And some of you may be saying, like, what about the first Spider-Man movie? How it had like the origin story, killing off Uncle Ben and gaining his powers, and then you have Green Goblin coming in later. What's that about? Doesn't that really count as two different stories? And I guess technically it does, but all Spider-Man movies have this thing where it's like his personal life and then also his Spider-Man life. It just wouldn't be a Spider-Man movie without that. What I'm really trying to say is that there are more things going on overlapping at the same time, and that's sometimes what happens when you have too many villains. Not all the time, but some of the time. And this is the exact same reason why I was so excited when I heard that Sony was going to be making a Sinister Six movie. So now that I've rambled on about this for so long, if some of you haven't picked up on it already, essentially the way that I think that Spider-Man Homecoming is going to be good, even with three villains, is that the three villains have to be working together to some capacity. Either that or they don't have all of them operating at the same time, but honestly, because there's three villains, and because that would just seem really weird with three villains, and also really long, I don't think they're going to do that. I think it more so has to be that they're working together. This is just a theory, and none of this is confirmed, by the way, but this is just a theory. Maybe just Tinkerer's going to make the technology for Vulture and for Shocker. Again, they're all working together. They're all going against, like, they all have a common goal, essentially, is what I'm saying. Because if you don't do that, you're going to run into the same problems that you had with Spider-Man 3. It's just going to be too much going on at the same time. You have Tinkerer doing his own thing, Vulture doing his own thing, Shocker doing his own. It's not going to work. It's too much in one movie. So if you all make them share the common goal, share the goal, and then they all go after Spider-Man or whatever the goal is, that's what's going to make for a good movie. That's how I feel that Spider-Man Homecoming is going to be good, even with three villains. The villains essentially have to be they all have to share the goal, and they all have to be working together to some capacity. Now, do I think Marvel is going to do this right, or do I think that they're going to make the same mistakes that Sony made? Honestly, because Sony made the same mistakes twice, I think Marvel is going to know what to do, especially since they've handled a large amount of characters before. In Avengers Age of Ultron, like all the Avengers, I know this is a good guy team, and that's essentially what they're supposed to do, but they're all working towards the common goal. And then we have Civil War, they're just all fighting each other. It's not multiple stories with the massive amounts of characters. So I think Marvel knows what they're doing when it comes to handling large amounts of characters, even though in comparison, it's actually a shorter amount of characters. But you guys get what I'm saying. I think Marvel's going to know what to do, and I trust Marvel. Most of their movies have been really good. So yeah, I trust them, and I think that they're going to know what to do with these characters. But obviously, this is just my thoughts, and none of this is confirmed or anything like that, apart from that there will be three villains in the movie. But how do you think it's going to work? Do you think it's going to be good? Do you think it's going to be bad? If you think it's going to be good, how do you think it's going to be good? Tell me in the comments below, and if you agree with what I'm saying, you can also tell me in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, comment down everything I said, comment down what you thought of this video. If you want to see more almost like predictions prediction videos for future movies in the future, you know, tell me, because then that lets me know that you want more, and you can also tell me that you want more by liking and everything like that. And, you know, subscribing to my channel, that would really help me out. That'd be so great. You know, I would really love to have you guys along for the ride. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. That's how I think Spider-Man Homecoming is going to be good, but that is just my opinion. If you guys agree, that's great. If not, that's okay too. But I really hope you enjoyed watching this, because your view means everything to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. It does really help me out, and I will see all you guys in the next video. I'm so excited for Spider-Man Homecoming. But anyway, that's it. I'm out. Peace.